people have been having trouble connecting to their database. If you need to reset your password, you find that in the Mongo Atlas panel under database access. You can edit your user account and you have the ability to reset the password here. So you need to make sure that password is in your connection string. So we're going to write two edit methods. We need to write a get method that will load a form at the URL task/edit with an ID. And then we need a post method that will process any changes we make to a task. So I'm going to go back to my controller. And we'll want to get tasks/edit T populate edit form with existing task values. So that's what we want to do. So our URL is /edit, and then we want an ID parameter, so it's prefixed with a colon. Whoops. So again, we'll store the ID parameter in a local variable. So we want to look up this one task. So we're going to run a similar operation to what we did in our root method. So up here we called find, but this is finding all. We're going to want to run a similar find, except this time we want to pass in the ID. So rather than querying all the documents, we're only selecting a single document. So we'll use the selected ID to look up the matching document. So I'm going to call task.find. Actually, we could call find, and there's a couple ways of doing it. One is call find, and I could pass in a JSON object where I'm passing in the ID. Mongoose actually has another method I'm going to call, which is a little simpler. It also has a find by ID method. So in this case, with find by ID, the first parameter is what's the ID value? What's our underscore ID variable? And like the find above, it'll return one of two things. It'll either return an error or it will return a document to us. Task document. So if we get an error, we'll handle it. If we don't get an error, we will get a task document back. So what should we do inside of our else if our query is successful? Yeah, so we're going to call res.render. We'll create a view called edit under views and tasks. We're using the tasks controller because we're performing CRUD on the tasks collection. So everything is inside of this one controller. So we're going to load our edit view, and then how do we pass it this object? And this is coming back to kind of the question you had asked earlier that we talked about before. So we're going to load this view. Here's our data. Here's the document, the matching document. How do we send that document back to the view? Right, so I created a JSON. I will create a task property that's filled with my document that we got back from the database. The task is capitalized here because that's using our model. That's referring, right? That's a constant that represents the model. And because our model is a Mongoose schema, it automatically inherits the methods of a Mongoose schema like find, create, remove, and update. So this model is of type Mongoose schema. So that's how we can call those methods without actually writing them. It's built in to Mongoose. So there's our method to populate our form. So now we need to build, sorry, here's our method. We now need to build inside of views and tasks, we need an edit.hbs view. So I'll make a new file, which I'll call edit.hbs. It will go inside of views and tasks. So what I'll do, rather than rebuild the whole form, I'll copy the HTML from my ad, and then we can modify it. Everything we have here we're going to need, but we're going to need some additional code because this just loads a blank form. We want this to be a populated form instead. So I'll copy this and just go to my edit and dump it in. I'll change the title. Rather than adding a task, I'll just make some details. So we're probably going to need to make, I don't know, somewhere between 4 and 6 changes to this form. What is one thing we need to do here other than change the title? I guess we could, although we definitely want to put it, we're going to render it anyway in the input box because you might want to change, you may want to modify the name. Yeah, so, okay, so what attribute, that's what we want to do. So what attribute would we add on line 6 so that when it is value. So I'm going to add to my input value equals, and then I'm going to use my handlebars with task dot name. So this will render the value from that, the name. Well, it doesn't need to be in the quotes for handlebars, but it needs to be in the quotes for proper HTML formatting. All the attribute. No, it doesn't. So it then renders. Well, it won't be empty because when we're adding, we have a required validation. So you can't add a document without a name value. Yeah. Okay, so there's the name. Now the priority though, So notice here, give everyone a break is priority 5, but when I go to edit, it says priority 1. Well, except it's a little bit different because select objects don't have a value property. So we need to determine, yeah, we need, so that's what we need. So maybe what I'm going to do is rewrite this code with a loop from 1 to 5 and add some logic that determines which item should be selected. In my handlebars, let's see. I just want to double check my syntax because I'm not too clear on it with handlebars. Handlebars is kind of new for me, so we'll just make sure. Let's see what. So we're not doing a for each loop in this case. Okay. I don't really want to write 5 if statements. Let's see. Okay, well, we could try this. We're going to use a helper, a times helper. I'm just thinking about where we would. There has to be a better way of doing this.
We just do a, what if we send a JSON object that says amount like max priority, and it says 5, and then we can somehow do a for each. The problem is that the way he has it coded, each option is stacked with. He has to create logic to put a selected on that. Well, what I'm saying is.
Okay, yeah, you know what, that I think this might work if we have a here we could send an array, so we could set I think we could send an object, an array called priorities. And then we may be able to iterate through the array. We'll try. We'll see. Right. We may have to actually make this a JSON object rather than just an array. Well, we'll see.
Is the idea that the option thing is going to be hard coded? Because if we have the list, like the drop down, at a fixed amount with a fixed number of elements, hard coded, you could use JavaScript, like regular old JavaScript, to iterate through them and do that part. It wouldn't be service side.
Actually, that's not a bad idea.
Regular old JavaScript is very easy to
Sure.
iterate through.
Okay. Um,
But yeah, if you use get element by
well, we can probably just do it this way, I think. Um, God, I haven't done this in so long. Hang on, I have to think about it. No, well, they don't need them. If you're using the text to be the value, you don't need value tag. Okay, I'm making a mess of this. I'll have to think about this. I'll come back to the priority in a minute. What else do we need? We need a few other things in here. So yes, we're going to have to figure out how to select the right priority. What else will we need to do? Ready? Okay, well, we will need the post handler, yes. The save functionalities, I mean, the form will actually submit. If I click it, it isn't, yet a not found because there's no post handler. But within the form itself, yes, we don't have that because when we're adding a task, by default, it's not complete. But here, we should be able to so we should allow the user to mark the item is complete. Whoops. Sorry. This should be. It's an input with a type of checkbox. Well, I think we can just say checked equals, and then we can use our task dot, which is a Boolean. So all of these are incomplete, so none of them will be checked. Okay.
You send that value from the task.
It should be here. So when we query call task find by ID, yeah, so, okay. Well, this when you call find by ID, it gets the entire document. So I just need to we need to have a quick look in the database and see why that's showing as, I want to look at the data. Because it shows as false here. So let's just have a quick look at our collection. In the first one it is, here it's not, it's a Boolean. Ah, I think,
Because if it's returning a string, it might be evaluating, oh, something that's, I don't see it, Boolean operator. Anything that has content in it, it'll operate.
yeah. Okay, so we'll write an if statement this way. It also, the checked property should not actually be true or false. The checked property, if we want it checked, it should be, the value is also checked. So it'll say checked equals checked. So I think we want, so we'll default it to being checked. So I'm going to initialize the value to checked. Right. It still doesn't like. Well, okay, we'll see what happens. I'm going to have to just check our handlebar syntax. So in this case, our checked will be equal to a checked variable. We may have to rewrite this a little bit. So we'll initialize it to checked, but unless the complete value is true, we'll set it to empty. We'll try it and see what happens. Yeah, all right. Well, that's not what we want. So we better look at using handlebars. We better check the handlebars docs for our syntax. So we'll go to let's go First of all, it's a templating engine. And we'll just put char variable.
I think it's probably the braces that's having trouble with the if statement. We potentially use a ternary statement to
Yeah, I'm not sure that we can declare a variable like this as well with handlebars.
I tried doing the partial thing with the handlebars, and nothing they said in the documentation actually worked.
Well, this is their draft. I'll go to their original documentation. Let's see.
Try to use the example, nothing.
All right, well, we'll get to experiment a little bit. With what we can and can't do in handlebars. Okay, so we do use for.
It's very thin, but maybe you want to rearrange it from strong. You want to change all the set.
Oh, that's a nasty looking thing.
They open on the yeah. That's true. We know. It's closed. Monday. It says open, it says you're not supposed to work, so why should I go Friday? Sunday. Or should I be working Sunday night and then go to them and say, hey, what's the name phone? I'm doing the job.
Doesn't crash.
Why?
So, hadn't found something that might work.
Okay,
We're trying it out right now.
all right. I'm certainly open to suggestions.
Well, instead of using bar, the handlebars apparently has an entire kit. Double handlebars, open kit.
Right, okay, so doesn't like this part. Um, we can try this too.
Well, yeah, so then I was supposed to connect 2 days ago. I was there for 2.5 hours, so I was like, okay.
So Rich, here's what we came up with.
That is what we got. That's what we got.
Oh, we got,
That's what we got. The thing is, we can't tell how to test the problem that we're at right now. We're not sure if statement, the task not complete is returning the right thing.
Well, here's one way to check. Right at the top here, let's print out task complete. So let's just, we'll just cut that temporarily. Let's see what we get. So it says false.
Oh,
This is more complicated than I thought it was going to be. It's okay, we'll figure it out.
that's mine. When you say that, I can't think I'm playing like.
So it's not allowing us to evaluate the value. We're trying to figure out if this value is true or false in the database. And then we know whether to check or uncheck the complete box.
Get rid of the spaces, or behind it there, I think it's really there. And if you get rid of the spaces at the end of the bit, yeah, it'll stop. Apparently, yeah, you can't just say apparently the equals false. We're trying to get to evaluate Boolean.
Well, the if says we can use it to conditionally render a block. If its argument returns false, undefined, or null, handlebars will not render. So here, it's simply checking if there is an author, it shows this. But it's not allowing us to do a more...
We just have false be an empty string. No, because the string is still there.
But it still exists. You know what? Actually, let's try this. I'm going to go into my database. Let's modify my document. And let's see. Let's try that. I guess I will change my code. Let's see what happens. Okay. But now what happens on the others? Okay, but now I'll set one to true. I don't think it's working. Which one was this? Grab lunch. Oh, okay, that works. So if the value's null,
We got empty and we have false. False true.
okay, I don't understand that result. I guess this evaluates to a Boolean. No, because when it says false, it's actually correct now. So this one is null. This one says false. Now, mind you, so it's working. I think so. It should work. So false, false, true. Okay, this is actually stupidly correct. Sorry. So it is evaluating this as a Boolean. So if it's true, it adds the checked attribute. There is no data type in the database. Remember, the database has no schema. It's schemaless. So we could put a complete value of 1, 2, 3 in the database. MongoDB will allow that. There's no schema. Well, we've created a model. So in our model, we're defining it that way. But in the back end itself, in the database, sorry, here was the code.
So the issue was, we have no idea.
Well, the issue was I was trying to evaluate it as a string. And the handlebars if statements are not that complicated. It won't allow us to. It'll allow me to evaluate a Boolean, or basically it'll allow us to say, is it null or not null? That it can figure out. And it can figure out that that's a Boolean. So it is evaluating this as a Boolean. So if I put a task in and I put in a complete value in MongoDB of 1, 2, 3, it will show as checked, I think. No.
It looks like it really cares about white space here.
Yeah. Okay. So I cannot have white space. But not with the if. Yeah, that's probably, I should take my white space out. Would probably be a better idea. Yeah. Okay. So here's our edit. We haven't dealt with this part yet. We'll still need to figure this out. And we need one other thing in the form, and then we'll take a break, which is we need to put the ID in a hidden field. So when we update, we know which task ID we're updating. I can add a type equals hidden. My name is underscore ID. And my value is task. Because otherwise, when we submit our form, we will have lost the primary key, so we don't know which document to update. So we'll have to fix this, but if I view my page source, my task ID is here in the hidden field now. So when I save the form, our ID is included. It's in the URL anyway. You can encrypt it if you want, and then decrypt it. Well, these IDs are MongoDBs, are like GUIDs from Mongo. So if you want, you can encrypt them on the links and decrypt them. That would be a way around it. Okay. I need a coffee. I will push this up to GitHub. We will take a break, and then we'll figure this out. If somebody's got a solution, okay. 1 bonus % on your final grade to the first person to create a working solution for the drop-down list. So the drop-down list correctly shows the right priority when we edit. I'm going to take a break. I'll leave this up and I'll push it to GitHub as well. Actually, I shouldn't say the first, it's the best. My opinion, the subjective best solution to our option conundrum. I'll give you 1% on top of your final grade. I'm getting caffeine. The code is on GitHub as well.
What's that? He's like Cart, right? You're a Carter?
You're not a Carter?
Oh! Who's your main Carter? Oh, yeah. All of them. The only ones that I have right now are
You missed us actually getting it to work.
Apparently, I got really not yet. I think, but maybe I think we can. Yeah. Come on. They do? What do you mean? They want to release like
There's an extra
Splatoon, Pokemon, and some Marios every now and then to buy.
Yeah, but you know how many they sell, bro?
There's a bonus.
No, it's not.
Yeah, but it has to be a good solution. It can't be the what, I don't know what I do is good. Because I know you can be there.
And you can everything buy friends.
Why am I still being serious?
I have no idea.
Dude, look how far ahead I am on this map. I don't know if it's online.
The ground is so slow. This is 100cc. It feels so slow. Yeah, anybody. Yeah, Lapis is I know. Why did it tell you in space?
Bro, I just got red jump.
Oh, you see that here? You ran it back here.
I've never lost.
I think we're playing with those are balls. Of course they're balls. Well, you can add your friends and see how they high score, but multiplayer will be available more in the future. Come on, I forgot fucking bomba.
No way.
Okay.
Let's get low. Okay. I'm gonna argue. I told you I was arguing. I guess you just said this. I think I did. I'm trying to like argue so you guys having that.
I got the name of Bob on this game.
Okay. Same thing?
Yeah.
But it's costume.
Okay,
It's just like
trying to argue to get the property hard.
I got
Bob's
money.
always taken.
I get
Even to these.
No, I'm moving back.
How do I?
No.
My gosh.
It literally went, hold on, I gotta do all moving back. So it's,
I almost had that like it.
You step it. Oh, right down the throat.
no, I got a little tongue gash in there.
Oh, you didn't unlock it yet. You have to.
Well, that's pretty far.
I have it right here. Thank you.
Yo, Brady, your mouth is just hella small.
But it's.
I can get told almost every time.
Oh, so like there's no walls on this, but you can't fall on.
That's a lot. When you get too close,
It's just invisible
I'll
wall.
put that go over.
I'll go again.
Brady, did you know that you have 1%?
Oh my god, this is it. I believe it. Oh, shit, bro.
Out of the background.
So guys, can anybody figure out the
first two
code?
were really good.
Does anybody want 1%
This is like a-
plus in their final grade? In case you think you did it, I mean. Wow.
Yeah, well, the trackers.
I would say
Wait, no, you have to look.
They probably had it in. Does the shell fly off?
Oh yeah, new places.
What's going on?
What's the giant shell? Dude, I thought I was Bowser's holding Bowser.
I just love it.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that was a cool.
Yeah, only Bowser.
I know it.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
That's alright.
I think so for the moment.
That's alright. That's.
Wait, I just got hurt.
Just started up.
Do you have it? Can you use it? Yeah, I think on the Bowser.
It's huge. It's so big.
I think it's just a green shell. Yeah, but it looks really cool.
Oh, that was just one of our.
Oh, that one.
I guess.
I know.
I do, but I got mine, I haven't mine kind of down yet.
The Nintendo account. Oh, Mario. Oh, Mario. That one's.
It's okay. I mean, it's not as big as
I really screwed it up.
I think it's the best part of it.
This one?
You can't jump.
There's no jump. What the?
I wish I could just tilt.
I don't know, they give tutorials for like no reason. They just go out there and nothing.
Yeah, I've already done it like that. I've already actually.
They would give you tutorials to follow like the circles, like the map. Getting used to it.
He's like, oh, don't worry.
Oh. Yeah. Yeah, I'm mad about it. It was actually like mad. Why what? Well, I guess it depends on the context. Why are you using the seller? Who's using that? Without look at that. That's beautiful.
How'd you get that?
When you have to in a roll.
That's a.
Wow.
That's
The second version.
This card looks way too
Yeah.
small. Even drawing it.
That was like, see, this was.
Oh no, that's me.
Wait, so you can just use it?
Yeah. That's so OP, that's like a free first place. Oh, like the thing when you have like some transformation one?
Yeah,
I got this wrench. What? That's some nice vibe.
That's
Oh, nice.
already have it.
Got it. You got it. You got it to work. You got what extra percent, of course. So, yeah, it depends on how good your solution is.
I think it's pretty good.
It doesn't matter how good it is.
I think it's probably easier to do that one part.
Yeah. The only thing is like.
Wait, the house shows up like Grinch.
If I'm the only one who bothered trying that.
Yeah.
I swear it's like.
No.
Well, you have to make it better.
Bowser shows acquisition.
I figured. Probably.
This is better because it has one extra line of comments.
Come back in 10 minutes.
Got it.
All right, then give me some more time.
He's just looking at mine.
That's not true. I'm improving.
Ready? I don't know what you guys say.
I have it.
A little bit. How come? I mean, it says you don't have the right build package. When you create your app, it asks you what type of app it is and asks you to select a build package for each app. So you pick Node. So for example, mine, when I set it up, it says my stack is Node.js because it's using this build pack. So you should be able to add, if it's not set to Node, then type Node here and add Node. That's in the settings for your app.